Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today I will be finally breaking down the Persistent Universe Monthly Report from October. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. Cannot do this without you guys. And if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping us reach that 60,000 subscriber mark. Now before we begin, much of the work done last month was in preparation for CitizenCon, and all of the panels that we saw, which I won't speak about directly too much in this report, as we have already seen all that was shown at the event. So with that said, starting with the AI features team, it says they have been focused on bringing AI combat functionality from Squadron 42 to the NPCs of the PU for Alpha 3.22. However, they appear to have moved this implementation forwards, as we are already seeing this work make its way in for Alpha 3.21.1. Now this includes the new accuracy calculations, perception reactions, ammo management, hazard avoidance, medical behaviors, and combat tactics. Now this is great news to see all of these new updates coming in for the patch that we are testing already. Of course, it is still dependable on the server stability, but I have seen already that the NPCs are much more aggressive, especially in closing the distance and firing at you, and I will certainly be checking out to see what else they can do over on my streams. It will be quite crazy when I can take out an NPC and another NPC will come in and revive them. Very much looking forward to seeing that happen. Now the team also ramped up bug fixing, which included improving firing validation to allow multiple observable points, which allows NPCs to fire at the player if they are behind chest-high cover. I assume they couldn't before. Issues with AI not reloading in cover, medical AI not correctly aligning with characters when healing, and AI not shooting while strafing were also fixed, along with a crash caused by navigation link raycasts. Hopefully we are not waiting too long until NPCs can actually help players and respond to things like beacons or just provide aid and assistance, and all of this work is definitely a step towards NPC crews. Now, a new structure for AI combat dialogue and wild lines was implemented, and the flow of first reactions before combat when standing in a usable was closed off, plus the team continued to polish the retargeted animations for Pyro's female combatants and civilians as well. So this will mean that if an NPC is using something like a panel, a device, or an item, or even a vehicle I suppose, they will react accordingly and stop using it to engage in combat with the player. And I must say, it is great to see the AI teams now more focused on the Persistent Universe with their own PU-related reports, as usually the Squadron 42 AI section was just repeated for the Persistent Universe one, which is why I didn't often repeat the AI stuff in the PU report. So this shows that the teams are now working on the PU-specific requirements more than before. Now for the AI tech team, they continued their work on the boids system and Apollo subsumption tool, alongside optimizations and improvements for the wider PU, Pyro, and CitizenCon. For the boid system itself, they began by fixing issues relating to spawning and unspawning and moving properties for agents. They then iterated on and improved the rules for flying groups and updated the separation rule for a better rapport between distance and strength in relation to other agents. And this is likely referring to things like flocks of birds or schools of fish, creatures moving in unison. Now, functionality for adjusting position during animation transitions was also added so that landing animations appear smoother, and the logic for spawning agents on nav meshes was updated as well. The next step for boids is to iterate on death states and how they transition into ragdoll. Hopefully we will have hunting soon, that would be kind of fun. Now for the Apollo subsumption tool, this received numerous improvements alongside bug fixing, like new functionalities to allow conversations between conversation activity and secondary conversation activity as well. So I wonder if this means that if an NPC is talking and someone interrupts, the NPCs can engage in a secondary conversation before returning to the primary. Not sure if that's what it means. If anyone does know, do drop a comment below. Anyway, several AI systems were updated as well. For collision avoidance, the team improved how they can change collision resolution mode between NPCs standing, moving, and sitting in vehicles. They also updated collision avoidance logic for cases when NPCs are part of a conversation, so when computing nearby agents and obstacles, they can also account for conversation members and ignore them. Plus, they then updated collision avoidance parameters to give better results for cases like NPCs pushing a trolley and multiple NPCs in a conversation. So a lot of nuance going into all of the AI systems, and like everything we see from CIG, I hope AI and NPCs look and feel like a whole new generational step up from what other games seem to be doing right now. Now, lots of work was done on the navigation tech, allowing them to be more efficient in calculating and keeping track of where a position is on the nav mesh, plus many bug fixes for various AI systems like cover locations, nav mesh tiles, and more. And the navigation mesh, if you weren't aware, is the system that allows NPCs to walk along planetary surfaces and other surfaces of various kinds. Now, moving on to the animation team, they delivered facial animations for combat AI, including female combatants, and various background characters, plus they planned out the required actions for some creatures. It'll be quite the day when we finally get creatures onto the planets for players to watch or fight. I know we saw some at CitizenCon, being the Kazi Grazers and the flying space whales or storm walls, but I know CIG plan on creatures of all kinds. Now, the character art team began work on a racing flight suit and a helmet. I do wonder if this racing flight suit will maybe aid in handling more G-force limits, as that would make sense to its role. The team also started new creature models, notice that was a plural, plus further explored ideas for fauna and medical outfits. So they are beginning to specialize outfits for the various career paths, plus it is great to hear that they are really pushing fauna big time now. I don't think it'll be a long time until we start seeing the various creatures populate in the persistent universe. Maybe starting with boids, maybe moving on to then subsumption-driven creatures. We will see. Now, for the economy team, they continued balancing the profitability of commodities for Pyro and Stanton. Very happy to hear this, as running potential exclusive goods from one system to the other will likely be very profitable, but also pretty dangerous. They are also reviewing and balancing the Alpha UEC prices of vehicles, identifying various criteria to help inform how they should be priced to better reflect their current potential. So interesting to see the in-game ship prices change. These could increase, they could decrease. It really just depends on what materials make them up, what components and weapons go into making them, and how they are maybe exclusive or very common. Similarly, the team started balancing the prices of armor using an algorithmic approach based on information pulled from live game data, with the vehicle and armor price feeding into the team's goal to holistically balance effort versus reward across the game and provide other teams with guidelines on how to provide items in the future. Now, this has been quite a long time coming, providing more reward for taking risks versus just chill gameplay. I do look forward to seeing what the fruits of this labor provides as it comes along, and hopefully means that as we attain more specialized armor pieces or ships, that it feels like the grind has been worth it. Now, the economy team also support other teams on gameplay features like the vehicle tractor beams, salvage contracts, and the profitability of loot found in vehicle wrecks. So this is pretty interesting, and I know it was mentioned recently that in terms of what we can find to sell on board of ships, like loot and so forth, they're trying to find a balance where you're not just always going to stumble upon 10 million UEC worth of goods, but that can still happen. However, it is far rarer than how it happens now. And I think that is the right way to go, so that when you do eventually stumble upon a great wealth of loot, it feels really exciting and rewarding to then call in for help and so forth, rather than just continuously stumbling upon millions of UEC's worth of cargo, which also ties into the price of how much things cost and how quickly we can earn Alpha UEC in an hour and so forth. So a lot of balance to go on there, which hopefully will start to make a lot more sense in-game as things get leveled out. Now, for the engine team, as you can imagine, the majority of their work was prepping for the very first panel of CitizenCon and getting the Star Engine trailer put together, both of which completely blew me away this year, and I think they are just fine-tuning that Star Engine trailer before they post it, the 4K version, to their YouTube channel, maybe adding some more elements to it that they didn't get to put in for the original trailer. The core engine team primarily worked on bug fixes for the live releases, including some long-standing memory leaks on the live server. That is great news. The physics team focused on delivering improvements to the Maelstrom destruction system and cloth and hair tech, both of which were shown off at CitizenCon and look phenomenal, hoping we're not waiting too long to see these come in, and more, obviously, implemented into the persistent universe. And finally, for the engine team, the entity streaming tech team supported the online team to deliver the server meshing demo while continuing to work on editor entity streaming. So this was quite monumental during CitizenCon, showing how server meshing was working as intended, and now it is a time of seeing that scaled up for the verse. Hopefully sometime before the end of the year for the PTU at least, but we will see. Now, moving on to the Arena Commander features team, the engineering team focused on the development of multi-crew gameplay and spawn locations, adding features such as locking and unlocking vehicles for spawning and seat selection within vehicles. Now, this will actually help towards finally getting Theatres of War out the door as well into that experimental mode, being able to choose where you spawn in a vehicle without having to just spawn in on foot and go running to it. Custom matches were also a large focus. Right now, the team are just adding the final hooks into the UI, utilizing the new custom lobby UI. They also created a new game mode featuring master modes and added various quality of life improvements and bug fixes for Alpha 3.22, including the rework of the friendly fire system. Nice to hear some more updates to Arena Commander coming in for 3.22, which is the end of year patch. They then enabled the award service in the persistent universe, which was recently used for the F8C and the 999th Squadron badge reward, plus engineering completed work on the solar flare hazard that we saw in Pyro. And I'm a big fan of that. It's great to see some actual environmental effects influencing our gameplay in the verse. Looking forward to seeing that come back again. Now, design worked on many areas previously mentioned, but also on multiple new FPS and atmospheric flight locations. Very excited to see what these will be. I can't wait to be testing atmospheric flight when all of the updates come in, so having this in Arena Commander will be a good place to test that without any punishment. Now, another pass over all of these Star Citizen vehicles was done, which involved hooking up seats and tags with the information needed to enable multi-crew gameplay. For example, they added scoring to account for multi-crew and better defined ship classes to include some that weren't previously featured due to requiring a crew to work as intended. And having true multi-crew gameplay in the persistent universe will be so fun, but allowing players to test this out in Arena Commander will certainly be helpful before I go around blowing up my teammates. Now, finally, a successful go, no-go was achieved for various game modes and locations coming in for Alpha 3.22, and it is interesting that now Arena Commander stuff has been redone. I'm actually really excited to see what these new modes and locations are going to be for the end of the year. Now, for the gameplay features team, they made significant progress on the engineering gameplay, including UI, plus they progressed with structural salvage. So 2 very exciting gameplay systems there that I'm so excited to see come along. We know structural salvage is also slated for release for the end of the year in 3.22, and I think last we heard was, with the engineering gameplay that Thorsten showed off at CitizenCon this year, they plan to bring that into experimental mode first to allow players to test it out and refine it before putting it into the PU. Now, the mission features team, they continue to work on the Blockade Runner global event, with focus given to decide which commodity is to be transported. Improvements were also made to the scenarios that occur when a player is interdicted during the event, and important work on the event backend means it can now be scheduled better. Also, mission feature worked alongside the economy team to more accurately balance the cargo manifest seen in salvage, bounty, and assassination missions to ensure they don't break the economy. And I think it was said that this now uses an algorithm to determine it, and has actually been rolled out into 3.21.1's latest patch, although I haven't tried it myself to see what the findings are. Now, the Steal and Recover Courier mission saw their first white box playthrough, with the start and finish flow complete, and now the team are switching to the polish stage and building variants. So it sounds like they will offer some variation to these missions, aside from them being legal and illegal, hopefully enough to make it worth trying over and over again. Now, the team also provided support for Pyro, including new bombing run and destroy vehicle missions, and these use a variant of the destroy item module used in the Destroy Drugs mission. Now these sound pretty interesting and will hopefully provide owners of the bomber ships a way to use them and make money, which will likely utilize various locations in the persistent universe for both legal and illegal, and it sounds like Pyro is going to be a big place for this kind of mission as well. Now moving on to the vehicle features team, they improved the handling of ground vehicles across different terrains to make them more predictable and tweaked various other ship systems to improve gameplay balance. Also, a tuning pass began for various upcoming ships and vehicles, and it is so great to finally see a full-on tuning and balancing pass for all of the vehicles in game, getting them closer to where they should be. Things are going to change big time for most, if not all, of the ships and vehicles in Star Citizen this year and into next. So looking forward to seeing how all of this comes along, and what ships feel good, what ships don't feel so good, and how that will affect our gameplay. Now for the graphics, VFX programming and Planet Tech team, of course, they worked big time on the CitizenCon panels. The Vulkan sub-team continued tackling the remaining performance and stability issues, which all need to be addressed before the public beta test can be considered. So great to hear about the progress there on Vulkan. So much potential once Vulkan starts rolling out, especially in terms of optimizations and getting the game performing much better. Now for the Interactables team, they supported the new underground facilities, now called the distribution centers, pushing the boundaries to create new and interesting props, and worked towards Pyro, helping to close out areas for dressing in multiple locations. Now these distribution centers are going to be pretty cool points of interest in the persistent universe, especially within supporting the economy and the updated cargo mechanics, as I think these will act as somewhat factory nodes and offer a lot of hauling missions of all scales. Plus, as you build up rep with them, you will gain access to more and more of the facility, which if you are planning a heist, will probably help in the long run. And I'm not even just talking about the raids. Now, the lighting team worked to close out multiple locations across the Pyro system. The live tools team began to improve the usability of tools within the Network Operations Center, which is progressing well, and new modules are currently being designed for future implementation. The EU locations team progressed with Pyro's rundown stations and added improvements to New Babbage, and I will say the new space stations in Pyro look phenomenal. Well, only the ones that I have explored, of course, being Patch City and Obituary. There are still so many more to check out, and I think it was also mentioned that 10 of the space stations in the Pyro system are derelict or abandoned, so can't wait to explore those ones. The Sandbox team continued to work on Pyro's settlements and the new underground facilities, and alongside this, the Organics team worked on planets and some smaller features for Pyro as well. And I think it has been said that the Stanton settlements are coming with Alpha 3.22 at the end of the year, so nice to see we're not having to wait until Pyro comes along officially to get more points of interest. And these kind of look like small villages with hopefully a lot of missions tied to them as well. Now moving on to the narrative team, they spent time polishing AI behaviors in the Pyro system to ensure its NPC population has the right look and feel, and I must say they look great, but unfortunately I didn't see the NPCs doing anything outside of standing still at the settlements. They were occasionally moving around and reacting to players a bit, but that was mostly in the space stations. Now looking ahead, the narrative team dedicated time to future improvements, such as evaluating how to improve the stability of the game's various mission givers, as well as long-term planning of additional future content with more narrative focus. For the R&D team, it says time was dedicated to cloud shaping improvements for 3.21 and beyond, with more improvements planned. The first iteration of ground fog was made available to the content teams, and this will follow the terrain up to a specific height per location and fully integrates into the atmosphere, and as a result receives volumetric shadows from both clouds and terrain, along with dampening direct and indirect light scattered through the atmosphere into the view ray. Also, support was added for volumetric shadows from clouds into the atmosphere, which includes various optimizations as well, which is always great to hear about optimizations. Cloud shadow quality at low sun angles was improved, and a few long-standing issues with cloud rendering has also been fixed. And finally, work on ground fog resulted in various optimizations, as well as a fix for subsample-sized holes in planet terrain height maps, which are used for purposes such as building planet terrain shadows or spawning GPU particles on the ground. And looking forwards, work on a new temporal cloud render mode will commence in November. So a lot of this stuff was actually shown off at CitizenCon, like the light shafts, the cloud improvements, and ground fog. Plus, all of this, they did say during that event, will be coming in 3.22 at the end of the year. So it looks like things are going to look even better. Now, finally, we have the visual effects team who worked on the all-new water simulation and effects alongside the graphics team, and provided visual effects support for various other teams' presentations at CitizenCon. And the water sim blew my mind again. Certainly some more visuals to go into it to make it look a little bit more natural, but what they are doing with water in Star Citizen will really help to evolve Star Citizen to that next generation of games. So there you have it. That was October's monthly report. Again, apologies for the delay in getting this out. It has been a bit hectic at this time. But with that said, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, you are all more than welcome to come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. We always have a great time hanging out, chatting about Star Citizen, its current, its future, and its end goal. So if you want to come and hang out and chat about all things Star Citizen, you are all more than welcome over there. The link is below in the description. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.